Hello friends and welcome to gusmcdollgames. My name is Nick McDowell and today we're continuing the NATO campaign in Naval War Arctic Circle with the third tutorial mission, in which we will cover the basics of air operations in Naval War Arctic Circle. Naval War Arctic Circle is based on a hypothetical Great Arctic War set in 2030 and largely fought in the North Atlantic, Arctic, Baltic and the North Sea. Each mission starts with a news article to give us some context. The Daily Global Courant, Saturday 29 June 2030. NATO exercise continues as US 6th Fleet departs for the Pacific. Sparks speculation over future role of US NATO in European politics. In real life, the United States maintains military forces in both the Atlantic and Pacific theatres and has recently rebalanced forces towards the Pacific in what has been described as a pivot to Asia. Please pause the video if you would like to read the full article, and while you're doing so, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more great content. Tutorial 3 Air Operations. This exercise allows you to take on enemy air forces and engage surface targets. Note that in this mission the enemy fights back. Objectives: inflict damage on enemy air force and surface ships. So our objectives are in the top right of the screen. Destroy at least 3 enemy aircraft, sink at least 1 enemy surface ship, and do not lose 5 or more aircraft to enemy fire. The hint says, okay, we've got 2 detections, the HMS Portland and a Eurofighter Typhoon, and the hint here has launch a good number of air superiority fighters to engage enemy aircraft and defend against incoming attacks, preferably in groups of 1 or 2. Set patrol patterns, dragging a rectangle with the right mouse button while launching aircraft. Use the same action with aircraft that are already launched when the movement planner is active. Use active and passive radars wisely to keep track of enemies. On your airfield, you have Poseidon naval patrol craft that are well suited for an overwhelming attack on surface ships. Launch this attack at the right time, defended by fighters. And you'll recall, if you've seen previous tutorial episodes, that we've been using the right-click drawing a rectangle method already. So here's our carrier group based on the Queen Elizabeth. But first up, we have a Eurofighter Typhoon, which is dangerously close, not only to the carrier group, but also, you can see it's been detected by the Diamond, the Queen Elizabeth, but also the E3 Sentry. This is close enough to launch on the E3 Sentry, so I want to do something about it. I'll go to the flight deck. I'll choose a patrol of 2 F-35C Lightning IIs in an air superiority flight profile. Select both of them and directly click on the Eurofighter Typhoon. There we go, and the hint says you may find it useful to set fighters and surface ships to automatically engage all cleared targets. You can set this individually in the battle planner and for all future aircraft launches in the settings. Okay, so we've directly selected the Eurofighter Typhoon, and they're the F-35 Lightning IIs taking off from the Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier there. They'll now move to intercept the Eurofighter Typhoon. Meanwhile, we have the HMS Astute, who you will recall was our adversary in the previous exercise, anti-submarine warfare. So it has 28 Spearfish and 10 Tomahawk UGM-109 tactical Tomahawk missiles, and you can see they've got a very, very good range and can attack land and surface targets. And they also have 28 Spearfish heavyweight torpedoes with a range of 29 nautical miles. They're not close enough to engage the adversary yet. It's got Thales sonar 2079, a towed array sonar as well. So we might deploy the Type 2065 towed array sonar, and it's a Type 2076 flank array. We might leave that off for the time being. So we'll just stay passive for the moment. We won't use our active measures. So this is the adversary that we've detected, is the HMS Portland, which is a Type 23 frigate. And you can see it's been detected by the HMS Diamond in our carrier task group, and also by the E3 Sentry that's patrolling to the northwest of the carrier group. You can see the Eurofighter Typhoon is turned in towards the E3 Sentry, and that's a very important asset I want to protect. And you can see the fact that it's already detected the Type 23 frigate. Is one of the reasons why we want to protect that asset and put up our combat air patrol to take down the Eurofighter Typhoon. So this is the Bergen Air Base here, defending itself with 72 NASAMS-2 AMRAAM missiles with a range of 14 nautical miles. The base itself has Boeing P-8A Poseidon multi-mission maritime aircraft, and they're currently set up for a naval strike profile, but they can also do land attack, ASW and mine laying. So there are 4 of them. as well as the F-35A Lightning IIs in an air superiority profile. And we have 4 of them, and we have Boeing KC-767 aerial refueling aircraft in their in-air refueling mode, and you can see the F-35. So what we might do first is take 2 of them, put them in the queue, and put them on a patrol between Bergen Air Base and the enemy surface action group. And you can see them taking off there in the background. Okay, let's have a look at there's the F-35s with Bergen Air Base in the background there. Okay, this is RAF Lossiemouth. In this scenario, they are an adversary force. They're based in Scotland. We'll go back for now to the QE2. I want to put more of a combat air patrol up against anything that might be coming at us from Lossiemouth. So let's put a movement box around there to cover anything coming from the surface action group, because we don't know, may have carriers. That Typhoon came from somewhere. Put another 2 here and a movement box to the south. Put another 2 up and a movement box directly between the carrier group and Lossiemouth. We'll also may as well launch 2 BAE Tyrannus in a naval strike profile directly at the HMS Portland group. We'll get them on the go. They can do naval strike light strikes, land attack, and land attack bomb profiles. So a very versatile asset there. And we'll get them attacking the Portland. And you may remember from the Jersey Blockade episode that they had considerable success against the French task group. So a very good asset. On the top right above the flight panel, you can see there's the queue, which is where the aircraft are when they haven't launched. They're the ones who are waiting to launch. Okay, well, the F-35s appear to have already launched an AIM-120D AMRAAM missile at the Eurofighter Typhoon. And as you can see, that's forced the Typhoon to go defensive and take evasive action. And one of the benefits of doing that, of course, is that you can spoil any attack the adversary was going to make. In this case, if the Eurofighter Typhoon was setting up for an attack on the Sentry, it's now had to abandon that and go defensive. So even if you don't score a hit with the missile, you can still cause what's called a mission kill, which is when you prevent an adversary force from accomplishing its mission, even though you don't destroy the platform itself. But in this case, we're hoping to do both. We may have already done a mission kill against its mission against the Sentry, although it's turned in and doesn't seem to see it's under threat from the AMRAAM. We may also get a platform kill. Let's see how that shapes up. And the missile's homing. Closer. And strikes. And the target's shot down. Okay. So we'll check our E3 Sentry now. This is the E3 Sentry. Incredible range. So we'll increase its altitude a bit. Happy with the speed. Check the sensors. So it doesn't have them turned on. So we'll turn on the APY Band 1, Band 2 radar to improve our chances of detecting whatever's out there. And back to Bergen Base. We have 2 Boeing P-8 Poseidons. We will get them up and launched. And what we'll do is we're happy with the naval strike. It's got 11 harpoons, and we'll directly target the HMS Portland there. We'll get that strike underway, and we have 2 more Poseidons, as you can see. And we put up 2 F-35s in a combat air patrol towards the Portland. Essentially, they'll be doing a fighter sweep ahead of the Poseidon. We also have 2 Poseidons in reserve at Bergen Air Base. So there are the Poseidons on mission. And climbing to avoid terrain. And you can see those rather spectacular looking mountains off to the port. Again, showing the potential this game has, where it does terrain modelling very well. Okay, we've now got another contact, an air contact, so we'll go to that in a moment. But first we'll watch the Poseidons crossing the coast. There we go, and drop them down into a very low altitude. So they'll go about 10 meters or so off the surface of the ocean, very low, and hopefully slip under the radar of the defending force. Okay, where was that? Oh, right, the Boeing KC-767. This was our large aerial contact you saw that we detected before. So this is it, flying low over the hills of Scotland. It's obviously getting in position here because you wouldn't really conduct air-to-air refueling operations that low to terrain, constantly having to adjust your altitude. So it looks like it's setting up for a patrol at some location, perhaps to the west of Scotland. And you can see the some of the Scottish Highlands modelled here in an attractive lime green colour. We'll just follow this tanker on a little bit just to showcase some of the terrain. As you can see here, the terrain modelling is one of the better features of the game. You can see a deep glen here, and what looks to be either a loch or the open ocean, slightly to starboard of the aircraft and forward. Yeah, so that Boeing is really doing nap of the Earth there, and that's obviously not the flight profile that it would be taking if it was conducting air-to-air refueling operations. But look at that spectacular backdrop of the Scottish Highlands. Meanwhile, to the north-northwest, we've detected another Eurofighter Typhoon that's probably launched out of Lossiemouth and heading on a direct line towards our carrier group. So in a moment we will leave the refueling tanker and deal with that Typhoon that's inbound on our carrier group. There we go, look at that, spectacular cliffs in the Western Isles. Okay, we'll speed up time a little bit to get things going. Enough Western Scotland tourism by me, and we'll see how things track. Okay, so now back to our forces, and we'll select the AMRAAM. Actually, yep, we'll make sure that, yep, we've got 16 AMRAAMs for that group as well. Okay, there's another Eurofighter Typhoon that's well within range of our AMRAAMs. We've also got AM-96 Sidewinder missiles, but it hasn't closed that close as well. They only have a range of 19 nautical miles as against the 97 nautical miles of the AMRAAM. So we'll engage the Eurofighter Typhoon with the AMRAAM, give it something to think about. Yep, and it's turning away. Meanwhile, you can see our BAE Tyrannus naval strike assets are moving somewhat slowly, but they are moving towards the enemy task group. And there is a setting where you can identify a target before engaging. It's always a good idea. Mostly that will happen through radar. And you can also set in the combat box engagement strength to minimal, normal or overkill, and that controls to an extent the amount of ammunition you use. We've got a new detection of another Eurofighter launching out of Lossiemouth. So I might go back to this fighter group, select the AMRAAM, wait till it's in range, and launch. Meanwhile, this fighter group's not within range, but you can set it to close and engage. If a target is out of range, try to close the distance and engage within range. So we'll do that with the 767 tanker, and that group of F-35s will now close with the tanker and engage it. And you can see here the AMRAAM missiles closing in on the Eurofighter, which is now gone defensive and taking evasive action. Racing back towards Lossiemouth. Okay, we missed up to the north, but that Eurofighter Typhoon was shot down to the northeast of the carrier group. So we'll set up a new patrol box for those F-35s. Meanwhile, let's have a look at the Eurofighter. Okay, he's now turning in. And we've got another AMRAAM out after him. Okay, so this is the Astute submarine that's here, but we won't do anything with the Astute for just now. And our carrier group, we've got it heading in a direct course. We might just look at, bring up the flight deck and look to launch. So we've got naval strike assets, we've got electronic warfare strike assets in the Growlers. We might take two naval strike F-35s and direct them towards the Portland. And then another two, again towards the Portland. And another two. So we're going with a bit of an overwhelming strike here. These will catch up and overtake the BAE Tyrannus UCAVs, and we'll also put two Growlers out for electronic warfare. They have harm missiles which will go up to the radar of the adversary's ships. And you can see the Eurofighter Typhoon's about to have a tangle with an AMRAAM to the south. And he's just, he doesn't seem to notice. The AMRAAM's closing in, and that's a hit. Splash 1 Typhoon. And that's achieved our objective of destroying at least 3 enemy aircraft, which you can see is struck out at the top right. So now we want them to close and engage with this Typhoon that's coming out of Lossiemouth. And we still have an air group between them. A number of naval strike assets are now inbound. You can see they're armed with the Kongsberg JSMs. Okay. There's the Queen Elizabeth, the centre of the task group. And this is the HMS Diamond, a Type 45 destroyer. And you'll recall from the Jersey Blockade campaign that this is armed with a 4.5-inch gun, a BAE 4.5-inch Mark 8 gun with a 15 nautical mile range. You can see that indicated on the minimap. An Oerlikon 30mm cannon, Aster 15 surface-to-air missiles with a range of 16 nautical miles for close-in anti-air, and an Aster 30 surface-to-air missiles with 24 of them with a range of 70 nautical miles, quite useful. Miniguns with a 1 nautical mile range for close-in weapons support. A Phalanx close-in weapon system Gatling gun with 2 nautical mile range. It has 8 Harpoon RGM-84 Harpoon missiles with 150 nautical mile range, and 16 Stingray lightweight torpedoes as well. So fairly well armed, very good for air warfare. Okay, we're checking up on our Poseidons now because they appear to have launched, but not all of their Harpoons. So we'll get them to go around and engage with the remainder of their Harpoons. No sense in coming all this way and then only firing 4 missiles. Let's see if we can do a little bit better than that. And there we go, there's another 12 out. And we'll get them to fire their final 6 as well. So these are the Harpoon missiles inbound from the Poseidons to the Portland. Going at 850 kilometers an hour, they've got about 21 minutes before they reach their target. So the Astute here is equipped with a Tomahawk, UGM-109 tactical Tomahawk. And what we're going to do is use that to engage RAF Lossiemouth. And if we cause enough damage, you can see the range there of the Tomahawks is very good. Covers anywhere we would want to strike. And certainly Lossiemouth is within range. By striking Lossiemouth, we potentially hurt, you see 918 nautical mile range, but we affect the adversary's ability to launch aircraft against us. So there's RAF Lossiemouth. And what we might do is bring the submarine up to periscope depth and ready to launch the Tomahawks. Speed up time a little bit to allow for that to happen. Just checking the rest of the battle space, make sure there are no surprises. You see the harpoons are out. And here's the submarine. At 10 meters below the surface. HMS Astute setting up for a Tomahawk land attack missiles. And we'll target them. There we go, launching. Okay, and this Eurofighter Typhoon's about to have a bad day. Yep, and it's shot down. The Astute, you can see, has launched its Tomahawks. There are the Tomahawks inbound to RAF Lossiemouth. And it's a brace of 10 Tomahawks. So that hopefully should do some damage to that airbase. Okay. So now the F-35s, we'll give them a movement box slightly closer to the coast, and that'll also help to provide a bit of a screen should Lossiemouth start to launch Typhoons to shoot down the Tomahawks. And that way we give them a bit of a screen. Meanwhile, the naval strike is still inbound with the sea skewers on the Tyrannus aircraft. That's still inbound. They're fearsome looking things. But they're at 100 meters, so I might drop them down to 10 meters, reduce their detection profile. Okay, the F-35Cs are inbound. They've got Kongsberg JSMs. We've also got the Growlers. They've got HARM missiles that they'll use to go after the adversary's radar systems. They'll home in on the radars being used by the Portland. So these are the F-35s. We'll increase their altitude a little bit, and you see they are going to be providing something of a screen. We might turn on their radar actually, AN APG-81 radar with a 260 nautical mile range, and the infrared's got 43 nautical mile range. It's already on, it's passive. But we won't turn on the second ship's radar. We'll leave that for a while. We'll just have one ship in the group with its radar emitting. Speeding up time a bit. Okay. Oh, and the KC-767 refueling aircraft's been shot down as well to the south. So those are important assets, in fact. If you do get a chance to shoot them down, do so, because generally yourself and the adversary will only have one or two air-to-air refueling assets. So once they're shot down, that's it. Okay, this is the Poseidon, and we'll click on Return to Home Base, get them to return. And we've got the adversary HMS Portland, the Type 23 frigate. And at this stage it doesn't seem to be doing anything about any of the attacks that are inbound. We'll speed up time and until those attacks get a little closer. Okay, we've got a helicopter NH-90, probably launched from the Portland, probably conducting anti-submarine warfare. And the F-35s have just launched AMRAAMs on that, so quite a lot of AMRAAMs as it turns out. We probably should have controlled their ammunition expenditure for a single helicopter. That was a bit excessive, and it just goes to show the importance of controlling your ammunition expenditure in the weapons control panel, which I obviously didn't know. We've detected another Typhoon to the north of Lossiemouth. It doesn't seem to be going after the Tomahawks, which is the good news, so we'll engage it with some AMRAAMs. Tomahawks seem to be doing fine, and you can see them closing in there towards the north coast of Scotland. Okay, the Kongsberg missiles have been launched and are tracking towards the Portland group. The Tyrannus sea skewers are still not within range, so we'll just let them continue to close. The Growlers, their high altitude, the harm missiles are still not within range. But the Kongsbergs they were within range, so we'll get them to go back and re-engage with all of their missiles. And you can see we've only got moderate expenditure. We should probably be giving them maximum expenditure so that they get within range, launch all of their missiles, and you can already see there's 2 ships in the Portland group now. There we go, and we've detected the second ship as it launches anti-air missiles against our incoming harpoons from the Poseidons to the east. So this is the Portland. And you can see the harpoons are gradually getting whittled down, these groups of harpoons. Okay, we've got our Tomahawks still fine. You can see something's tried to launch on them. That's probably the Lossiemouth launching anti-air missiles, but it hasn't been successful. We still have our full complement of tactical Tomahawks inbound on the Lossiemouth. And you can see it doing nap of the earth. And then we've got our harpoons inbound. Another one's dropped. Okay, you can see more anti-air missiles coming up from the Portland group. And one of the advantages of launching these overwhelming attacks with missiles is it does force your adversary to expend a lot of their anti-air missiles and essentially use up their defensive capability, after which they are solely reliant on close-in weapon systems and therefore fairly vulnerable to further attacks or follow-on attacks. This is one of the advantages of using air power, is that your aircraft can survive and return, rearm, and conduct another strike. Okay, so we've got an incoming missile report. Here's an unidentified air contact. I'd say it's probably a Typhoon, but it looks like it's going after the missiles that are... so we'll get the F-35 seems to be being targeted as well. Okay, we're about to get some hits, I feel, on the Portland group. Here's the harpoons closing in. You can see the Portland ships just on the horizon. So let's go that group there. We'll see what impact the harpoons have, or whether they're shot down by the close-in weapon systems. Okay, some of them being shot down by the close-in weapon systems, as you can see. They do have an effect. But the Portland is damaged by one of the harpoons, and we have more harpoons inbound. Portland's down to 77%, now 56% and on fire. And that's the harpoons. Okay, so yep, minor fire, and its known contact health is 56%, which is obviously an estimate, but the speed's down to 5 kilometers an hour. This is one of the interesting aspects. Even though we haven't actually sunk this ship yet, we have forced its entire group to slow down. And this group of aircraft are now they're bingo fuel, so they're returning to base, but they're also being chased by an AIM-120 AMRAAM missile, probably launched from that asset there, which is probably a Typhoon. So we'll get our F-35s to launch on one of the other Typhoons. The F-35s look like they're going to be in a bit of trouble here. Oh no, they seem to have evaded the AMRAAM. But they are bingo fuel and heading back to base. Meanwhile, the Growlers haven't yet used their harms, but they are coming within range, so we'll get them to launch, and all 4 have launched. Okay, the comms jammers are... and they have ALQ-99 jamming pods as well. And the BAE Tyrannus naval strike, still out of range for the sea skewer. So we'll just let them continue to close in on the adversary. And a group here of Kongsberg's Joint Strike Missiles, and these were launched by the F-35s on the Portland and the Thor Heyerdahl, which is the other ship in that group. The HNO, Her Majesty's Norwegian ship, the Thor Heyerdahl, which is a Fridtjof Nansen class frigate. Meanwhile, the Portland is down to 11% health with the fire raging, so it looks like it may be sunk at any moment, as we see the Kongsberg Joint Strike Missiles closing in. However, the Portland group will still have its close-in weapon systems to start engaging those Kongsberg JSM and reducing their numbers. Okay, so we'll just reduce it down to normal speed. We've got the missiles inbound, very close. We'll see the results of this latest attack. Okay, the Thor Heyerdahl and the Portland. And it looks like they've shot down successfully the first group of Kongsberg JSM using their close-in weapon systems. Okay, it's got a minor fire at 11%. But we have more JSM inbound. And also the harms, the AGM-88 harms are about to strike as well. And they home in on the radar systems, which is one of the disbenefits of using active sensors. You can see their close-in weapon systems taking out a lot of our missiles. But the Thor Heyerdahl is damaged, takes a big hit, and it's down to 63%. Portland isn't out of the woods yet because we've still got more missiles inbound. The Tyrannus not yet within range of the sea skewers, but they are getting there. They're closing fairly quickly. Okay, Thor Heyerdahl is now down to 63% health. And you can see that its main gun is oriented to probably shoot down those missiles. And you can see, yep, it's successfully shot down the latest missiles. Okay, so the Tyrannus is still not within range. It's okay, still getting there. So we'll go out and just see what... Okay, we've got a number of air contacts. Now, we've also got our Tomahawks closing in on Lossiemouth. We've got our we better launch more AMRAAMs from our F-35s. And we've also got a patrol of F-35s there. And let's have a look at our Tomahawks, which are closing in on the Lossiemouth, which you can just see in the distance on the coastline there, across the bay. And it looks like we've lost one of the Tomahawks because there were originally 10 of them. There are now only 9 in the group. Not quite sure how or why, but that could have been to surface air missiles launched from RAF Lossiemouth. And they've got about 30 seconds or so before they impact the target. And the intention behind this attack is to reduce the capability of RAF Lossiemouth to launch aircraft that will engage us or inhibit our mission in any way. Okay. And I would like to destroy the airport, but with 10 Tomahawks, it's more likely we'll severely damage it and impede its operations, rather than to destroy it entirely. Okay, so first strike's expected, and there we go. And there's RAF Lossiemouth down to 55%, so As I predicted, not severely damaged, but not destroyed. Okay, looking at the picture again. Okay, so the BAE Tyrannus have come within range. They've launched all 8 of their Sea Skewer missiles, and they're now returning to base. Okay, the Bergen Air Base. We may get our Poseidons up and we'll launch them against the Portland group, and we can always recall them if we want. Okay, F-35's counter-launching with AMRAAMs. There are a few missiles in the air back towards our aircraft. So far we've been fortunate not to lose any of our aircraft to enemy fire, but I have a feeling that our luck may not last with the number of missiles inbound at us. Okay, these F-35s are closing to engage with their AMRAAMs. This group here still has 15 of its 16 AMRAAMs and patrolling the area. What else have we got? Hawkeyes, Merlins. Okay, we won't launch anything from the carrier group as yet. Having a look at some of the weapon systems. The Harpoons are out of range of the Portland, so we can't really use them. But we'll go back to the Portland group because it does look as though there's more missiles inbound. And if we sink one of these craft, this will trigger the end of the exercise. Okay, you can see their close-in weapon systems engaging the Kongsberg JSM. There's a couple more shot down, and you can see on the top left we've lost an F-35. So we've unfortunately lost one of our aircraft. I was hoping for a casualty-free tutorial, but not quite. And we're looking here at the Thor Heyerdahl, which is down to 63%. It's got a number of missiles inbound. The next ones up are the Kongsbergs. Let's see the results of this attack. Okay, and the HMS Portland is destroyed. So in the third tutorial on the basics of air operations in Naval War Arctic Circle, we've covered launching aircraft from an airbase and an aircraft carrier, conducting a combat air patrol and attacking enemy aircraft, launching land attack missiles from a submarine, launching naval strike missions to attack surface targets, and conducting anti-missile defense. This exercise brings our third tutorial mission to a close. In the next 3 tutorials, we will cover additional aspects of the game before continuing the NATO campaign. As always, thanks for watching. For more Naval War Arctic Circle content, check out the Jersey Blockade and NATO campaign playlists on our channel. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. And stay tuned for the next episode.